Hi guys, welcome back to my channel light.km. In this segment, I want to share with you guys a motivational story about a well-known celebrity. And I believe this person doesn't require a proper or formal introduction, because I'm pretty sure that most of my listeners right now are actually a big fan of him. So, without further ado, presenting to you the motivational success story of Robert Downey Jr. Alliance Tony Stark, Alliance the Iron Man. In this motivational story, you will understand that everything is possible. You will understand how Robert Downey Jr., your idols, roses from the bottom and became a superhero. There is a famous quote from Robert Downey Jr. saying that just because you hit the bottom doesn't mean that you have to stay there forever. So, we will talk about the childhood of Robert Downey Jr. As a child, Robert grew up surrounded with drugs. And the only reason that this happened is because of his father. His father was a drug addict that allowed him to use the drugs at the age of 6 years old. But now, his father already regret his decision. And for Robert Downey Jr., the drugs that they used back then was actually some sort of emotional bonding between him and his father. As Robert Downey Jr. used to say before this, that when my father and I do drugs together, it was actually somehow he's trying to express his love for me. Yeah guys, I know it's really weird. It's actually a very strange way for someone to show or express his love. But nevertheless, that's how his trouble began. And for your information, the talent in acting runs in his family's blood, because his father, Robert Downey Sr., was actually a filmmaker. Meanwhile, his mother, Elsie Downey, is an actress. So this is actually makes sense how Robert turned out to become a very, very successful actor. So we will talk about the life struggle of Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. started acting at the age of 5. That was amazing, right? Because I think most of us at the age of 5, including me, was busy selecting or picking toys at the supermarket. But not for Robert Downey. He already started his acting career. And during his childhood, he had a minor roles in his father's movie. In 1987, he started his first career. He played a role in his first movie with the title Less Than Zero. And due to his marvelous and outstanding performance, he got praised by his top directors. However, this is where everything changed. From 1996 to 2001, Downey was arrested many times, and mostly due to charges related to drugs. He did went through some drug treatment programs or rehabs, but unfortunately it turned out unsuccessful. In 1996, Downey was arrested due to possession of drugs and unloaded guns. And not long after that, in 1997, he was sentenced to 6 months in prison after violating his own parole because of missing a drug test. And during his time in jail, he was attacked by his fellow inmates and covered in his own pool of blood the next morning. In prison, he worked in the kitchen. He washes the dishes and only get 8 cents per hour. So, every person must have their own upside down story in their life. Like my father used to say that for every rainstorm that occur, eventually there must be a beautiful rainbow. So, same situation happens to Robert Downey Jr. After so many life struggles, how his life changed. In 2003, he met his first wife, Susan Levin. She insisted that she would only marry Robert Downey Jr. only if he left the drugs for good. After so many years struggle with arrest, substance abuse, and successful rehabs, he was finally ready to work really hard to make a full recovery and never use the drugs again. His determination in never wanted to do the drugs again, we can say that it's like somehow Robert threw all his drugs into the Pacific Ocean, buried the drugs and submerged deep down in the Pacific Ocean. I mean, that's only the analogy, guys. Don't take it literally, okay? After that, he entered a rehab program called the 12 Steps program. He started to do meditations, yoga, and martial arts, and by getting clean, has done wonder to his career. In 2008, this is how his life changes. This is how everything changes. Downey was finally getting hired by the MCU, or acronym of Marvel Cinematic Universe. Downey started to play the iconic role of Iron Man, and 10 years later, he appears in the Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Avengers, Civil War, Infinity War, and finally, the one and only that everyone are crazy about and everyone are talking about, Avengers The End Game. So, there is no doubt that Robert Downey Jr. has been through so many hard times in his life. But what most important we can learn from this story, that he didn't let anything stop him. As one of the most popular actor in the world and one of the highest paid actor in Hollywood, his current net worth is $300 million. I mean, can you imagine that? From ex-convict and ex-drug addict, he became one of the wealthiest actor in the world. So what are the hidden value in this motivational story? Or what can we learn from this motivational success story? Firstly, it is okay to ask for help. There's no need to shame about it. It is never late to change. Self-discipline is the key. And discipline will create a habit. And when you have a good momentum or habit, it will eventually become part of your lifestyle. One of the way to win over your bad habits is the law of motion. Because every time you feel tempted to go back to your old habits, for example, you are recovering from smoking and you feel that you want to smoke again, well, you might as well take one small step in a different direction. For example, doing chewing gum, eating chips, e-cigarettes, or whatever it is to keep your mouth busy. And always remember that you are the master of your destiny. You are the creator of your life and your future. So, if you want your destiny to look like you have always dreamed about, do something about it right now. Because only you can change your future. So I hope that this story inspire you all, and If you want to share your journey life story, feel free to contact or email me at firdausimran76@yahoo.com, and we will broadcast your story on air together. So I think that's all from me. Thank you very much. Enjoy your day.